Welcome to the podcast, Respectfully. Today we have a very special, important guest. She is a 2024 Harris Walls alum, Nebraska Democrat Executive Director, former Biden-Harris political appointee. She's a mother, she's an influencer, and she's having a lot of motion in North Omaha. Ladies and gentlemen, tip my hat, salute Precious McKesson.
Oh, I appreciate it. Look at you with my bio.
Yeah, I got to do my research. I got to do the research.
But you forgot one thing. The 2020 elector made history, casting the first electoral vote in the state of Nebraska as a Black woman for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. So yeah, that's
There we
that's my big
go.
one. That's my firstery.
Thanks for adding that. I know you're doing a lot of things. I'm excited to have you on. So let's get right into it. First, I remember you vaguely seeing you around. I don't know if you went to Northwest. Was you a cheerleader at Northwest or something?
I was on the dance team at Northwest, but I played
Okay.
basketball. But I grew up, and I say this because people gonna be like, "What?" I grew up off of 45th and James, and then
Okay. I know. I
I
seen
went
you
to yep.
say that before. Yeah.
Yeah, I always say that. I tell people, I remind people, look, I grew up. Look, Redmond was my stumping grounds,
What
and
was it like
then
for you growing up?
man, I grew up with a single mom. I had a brother and a sister. It was hard. Everybody has those different family things that go on. My mom and my stepdad at the time, even though they were never married, but he was my mom's partner. He worked a good job at Vickers. And so he
Okay.
exposed me, my brother, and my sister to a lot of things that we had never been exposed to, especially being,
Mm.
growing up with a single mom who had some trauma that happened to her during her life. So her healing process, and still I tell people I'm not ashamed. My grandmother was a functioning alcoholic. My grandmother was a housekeeper at Bergen Mercy for over 30 years. And so my stepdad came in and he kind of just showed us another life, taking us on vacation. So we was the kids from the block, like going on family vacation. And then the summer of my seventh grade year, my stepdad, he decided that he wanted to take us out of basically out of the hood. He's like, I'm gonna show y'all something different. And he built my
Right.
mom a brand new house from the ground right behind Northwest High
Mm.
School. And so
Okay.
that summer we moved. And once you move past 72nd, boy, people thought you was rich.
Right. Right. You was.
And
You
so I
was
ended up
rich.
having to transfer schools, and I went out to a Morton Magnet school, and I was hurt
Okay.
because I was leaving all my friends, and I was like, wait a minute, y'all got me out here. I never seen as many white folks ever. I was like, hold up. And
Right.
so
Right.
uh, he exposed us to that. And so then from there, graduated from Northwest High School and then moved to Alabama at a young age, became a mom, and then came back here. And yeah, and my
Okay.
daughter will be graduating. Crazy. All this happened, and my daughter will be 22 at the end of this month and graduating from college on May
Wow.
16th from Creighton
That's
University.
what's
So
up.
yeah,
Congratulations
thank
on that.
you.
Well, let me ask you, how in the world does a North Omaha girl get into politics?
Whoa, let me tell you, I wasn't looking for it.
Mhm.
What ended up happening, my brother had gotten very sick. So at the time, I worked in the clerk of district court. I worked in nonprofit for a long time, but just fast forward to when I got into politics, I had always been interested in politics as a young girl, because living where we lived at, I always wondered why my parents had to pay Papillion Sanitation to pick up their garbage, and why didn't the Omaha Police Department ever come to our neighborhood, only the sheriffs. All
Mm.
to find out is that we were not basically in city limits. And then my parents couldn't vote for Ben Gray, even though we went to church on North 24th Street. They couldn't vote. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? So
Mm.
my first campaign that I ever was a part of was Brenda Council when she ran for mayor in 1997. And the only reason why
Mhm.
I was a part of that because I was a debutante in the cotillion, and they made us do
Okay.
volunteer work. And that was one of our volunteer things. And from there, I was like, wait a minute, she lost by like 700 votes. And that was heartbreaking because here we are, the first time I'm able to vote as a Black woman, as a young Black girl at 18. I vote for
Mhm.
Brenda Council. Then I moved to Alabama and I saw like politics in a different way. I mean, everybody was like, it was crazy because you got people on the water board, the city council. They were like, these people rogue, like they doing some crazy things, but I would always see it. But then I didn't live in the city of Birmingham. I lived in a suburb. So my
Why
people
Alabama? What, did you go to college there? What made you go to Alabama?
I was young and dumb and followed some men.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay.
But I did go to school there and I did get a good job there. So look, and I'm blessed to have my daughter. Yes, But
Yep.
so being there, I didn't see people like, because even though I lived in Birmingham, on the outskirts, I didn't see people that everybody that where we lived at didn't look like us. And
Yeah.
so when I came back to Omaha, I got involved in nonprofit. And then this opportunity came about in 18. I had ended up going to work for Senator Wayne, childhood friend. I went down to work in Lincoln in the legislature. And the chair of the party had said that she was looking for someone to do some constituency work to build the relationship of North and South Omaha after the 2016 election,
Mm-hmm.
because so many people, will come in and come out. And so when I did that, I said, well, they said, well, who could we get? Somebody who's not like in the politics like that. And so three people said my name. And so me and her met at Do Space. And when I met this woman, I was like, who's this woman with this white woman with these cowboy boots on? Like, she playing with me. But we hit
Yeah.
it off. We hit it off. And I told her, I said, only way I come and do this work for you is if I have full autonomy. And I have to have an office in North Omaha. I have to have this, and I have to be able to have the hiring ability to hire people that look like me so they're not coming in and coming out. And she was like, all right.
Wow.
I was like, okay, she's not gonna go with this.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I'm still working with her till this day. Me and her are still, she's the
Wow.
chair of the party and I'm the executive director. So I started off as a constituency director and worked my
Yeah.
way up. I was the finance director, so helped raise money. I was a political director for the Biden Harris campaign in 2020. Then I
Mm-hmm.
went to DC. I was appointed to the administration, and I went to DC and I worked underneath Secretary Cardona for the Department of Education. I was a part of the team that helped reopen schools. So I brought a perspective of being someone from the community. I don't have my college
Mm-hmm.
degree, so I was bringing real life
Right.
experience when we were
Yeah.
talking about reopening schools. Because again, I'm in the room with people who done went to Harvard and did all these different things, got vacation homes in the Hamptons. I didn't
Wow.
care about that because I knew that the community that was being impacted the most was the community that looked like me. So I always
Right.
go into
Right.
these rooms and say that. So that's how I got involved in Jane Klebb gave me the opportunity, and I've been rocking with her ever since. And so I do this work not only in Nebraska, but I do this work on a national level. I'm the
Yeah.
president of all the executive directors across the 50 states and 7 territories. So I have a
Okay.
very presence on that area. And yeah, I just love what I do because I'm talking about life experience. I'm not talking about, I don't come from legacy. People who
Right.
think
Right.
because their family was a, no, I'm not a Kennedy. I'm not none of them. I'm a McKesson, and I'm talking about the things that happen in my community, the people that look like me, how it impacts them. And if we're not talking about that, then I don't want to talk about it.
Man, that's amazing. I'm so proud of coming from North Omaha. You the first, I would say, and I've been gone for some time, but the first female that I know coming up, in those North Omaha streets to actually get into politics. So I tip my hat to you for that. What
Now let
gave
me
you
go.
that confidence to kind of make those demands to her like that?
Because I watched it all the time. I will watch it. And I'm gonna tell you the one example I'm gonna give. Every time I would watch, like, the campaigns would come into the state and they would set up shop in North Omaha. And then as
Mm-hmm.
soon as the campaign was over, they'll leave. And I think it was the Hillary Clinton campaign in 16. They had an office
Mm.
right next to Mid K on 60th and Ames. And
Okay.
I'll never forget something had happened. I gotta go back. I'm gonna go back to my feed. I'm gonna find this story because I called them out on it. I went to their campaign office. I called their campaign manager. It was something with 50 Cent, and they had like this, like a cardboard cutout, and it was just derogatory. And I was just like, oh, so y'all gonna do this in the hood, like in the hood? Okay, well,
Mm.
let me go and say something about it. So when I
Yeah.
got to work for her, my thing was I used to always call people gatekeepers. And they would get
Yeah.
so mad in North Omaha. Like, I'd be like, oh, I can't
Mhm.
be at the table. And so I say this with full transparency because I've never shied away from it. Before 18, nobody in the community would put me on their payroll because they felt I was too loud. I had too much to say. I worked for a nonprofit. I worked for Girls Inc.
Mhm.
And then I volunteered at the Boys and Girls Club on for their cheer squad. I coached the cheer squad. But that was a low paying job for me at Girls Inc. And then when I wanted to rise up, I would not get promoted. And so when I went to work for Senator Wayne, I got to see another side. And I was like, wait a minute. I said, for this long, the reason why I wasn't getting where I wanted to get because people were threatened by my voice and what I had to say. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
promise you, I say this now. And I said to someone, I said, yeah, back then y'all didn't want me. Now I'm hot, y'all own me. They get mad when I say that. They get
That's
mad.
what's up.
But I keep it
Yeah.
100 with them because that's what happened.
Yes.
They didn't want me on their payroll. But then when they start to see me progress in the political world, then
Right.
it was like,
Right.
oh, we need to get Precious. We need to call Precious. But I tell them, no, my time, you can't just get me because now I have someone who's not even from this community who is pouring into me, making sure I can feed my family, making sure I can still
Right.
represent my community and with no stipulations. But when y'all look like me in this community, y'all was giving me stipulations of what I can and can't say. We're not doing that.
Right. I love that loyalty. And shout out to Candace over at Girls Inc. I know you from North Omaha, and a lot of us are passionate about the city. But why are you so connected to Omaha like that and go so hard for the city like that? What drives that fuel?
And North Omaha is a gold mine, and North Omaha is so precious to me. Not no pun intended, but I mean, I grew up here. This is what made me who I am. I was able to see
Yeah.
so many different things. I was able to be a part of so much. Being able to leave the city and being able to travel and see other places. It's no place like home. I mean, living in
Yeah.
DC, I loved living there, but I loved coming back here. This community for so long has been I feel at times not heard and not represented. And just to be able to be a part of that conversation and be have a seat at the table and be able
Yeah.
to talk about the things that are necessary and needed for our community. With my daughter, I was very, very intentional. Some people like when they feel like they get to a certain part, they send their kids to private school. No, my daughter went to Omaha North. She came out as
Mm,
senior class president. She was a cheerleader. We represent for our community. North
for
Omaha made
sure.
me. North Omaha is in me. And I tell people, I wear shirts say respect North Omaha because this is where I come from. This is me. And
Right.
I just love the people of North Omaha. Sometimes they try to give us a bad rap, but we got some great people in North Omaha. We got some great things happening. And the thing is that they're so quick to report on the bad things because that's what they get their ratings from, but they're not talking about all
Yeah.
the different things that happen in West Omaha. And many times that I saw white collar crime and different things coming through the clerk's office, people who was in drug court who should have been on the
Hmm.
news,
Right.
but I would just be like, okay, just go take their payment. But it's just I just love North Omaha, and I live in North Omaha. I represent North Omaha, and as I look at where I go from in the next 4 years, like when I'm looking at, well, okay, I want to build a house. My home will be built in North Omaha. It will not be built past 72nd. I will stay in North Omaha always.
I don't really know how that political things work, but anytime we see somebody moving up, we know what it comes with. How do you find yourself, getting that hate from some individuals, and how do you manage that?
I mean, I do. I mean, I get some hate. I mean, I've had, I've had to have security. I've had, have to
Mm,
I got, people are on me right now about certain things. But I'd say I have a higher power. God continues to watch over me. And every day
yeah,
when I wake up, I say, God, you order my steps in the way that you want me to move.
yeah, there you
I'm
go.
not scared of nobody. I'm
Right,
not
right.
scared. Like,
I
run
see,
up.
I
What they
see.
say, run up and get done up. Cause let
Right
me
up
tell you.
against.
Cause it's there. I tell people all the time. And then, I had a situation recently and people's like, oh my gosh, you shouldn't say nothing about the Omaha Police Department. And I'll say this, and I'll make it very clear. There's been people say, oh, she don't like the police. No, 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 no. We've had differences with the police department, the Omaha Police Officers Association. They say a lot of different negative things in a very in a hurtful way. I've had the president of it call me a Karen, and he a black man. And I'm like, you know what? So, I mean, I told him, I was like, I'm not going to sit here and keep going back and forth with you. I'm just going to go to your police chief. And I think that's the
Yeah,
problem, too. I think they get mad because, I do troll them and I'll be like, oh, yeah, thanks to the police chief for answering my phone calls. I appreciate you, homie. I do stuff like that. But I
right,
tell
right,
people, I'll be the first one to tell you, I have nothing bother with, I don't have no issue with the police. I want the police to go home to their families the same way that I want our people and anybody else who encountered the police to go home to their families. What I do
right.
have a problem with is the racist police officers, the
Hmm.
ones who should
Hmm.
not be on the streets, the ones who should be in a file room or counting citations in the mail room. That's what they should be at, or they shouldn't be on the police department at all. So,
Right.
somebody told me like, oh, you should be careful when you say things. I tell them the city of Omaha and the Douglas County Sheriff, the Douglas County don't have enough money to pay me if they start to harass me.
Yeah.
So I best they better choose wisely because
Yeah.
I'll be building that house faster than they thought.
Right. I love your spirit at North Omaha. I see it in you. It's all in there. Tell us what's probably one of your biggest, most valuable lessons in politics year to date.
Stay true to yourself. Stay true to your values. I think one of the biggest things that I think that I have been, back in when James Scurlock was murdered and people were upset and the community was very hurt. And there was a resolution that was made to condemn Don Klein and saying that he perpetrated white supremacy. And so I read the resolution and the resolution passed on behalf of the Democratic Party. And I got so much pushback. I mean, I had senators, past senators and governors calling me. They wrote a letter saying that the Nebraska Democratic Party was wrong for what they said about Don Klein. Precious, he, calls kid. That's what they always call me. The older ones call me kid. You got to understand, he represents us, and he's for civil rights. He's for voting rights. And not even 2 weeks later, he called this big press conference with all the Republicans and he changed his party to Republican. And somebody caught him on hot mic and said, "Hey, did you vote for Donald Trump?" And he turned around and he says, "Yeah, I voted for Donald Trump because he believes in law and order, and so do I." That same day, I picked up that phone. I called every single person who signed that letter. And I said, "So you said he was for me?" I said, "Nah." I said, and they said, "Well, they said, well, Precious, you got it." I said, "You know what? You're right." I said, I do feel a certain kind of way. I would have did something different." They said, "What's that?" I said, "I would have told him I was reading that damn letter before I did it." That's what I would have done instead of him being surprised. I would have gave him a chance to know. So I think the one lesson is stand true to yourself and don't ever compromise your morals and values for anybody, because at the end of the day, I'm a Black woman before I'm the executive director of the Democratic Party. People could care less sometimes. They see me as a Black woman first. They don't see my political status. And so I just stay true to myself.
That's what's up. So Precious, I did some homework. I know you're a Democrat. I did some research and I got some
Okay.
questions here to really pick your brain. I want to get your perspective.
Okay.
So he also said Maduro's wickedness to their country, it was so hostile that they prefer Trump to come in and kind of govern the city and help them out. I also saw Stephen A. Smith said, "Why is it a problem now that we got him? The Biden administration had a bounty on his head. The Trump administration during the first term had a bounty on his head. And now that we got him, there's a lot of talk about Donald Trump, the way he did it, etc." Jasmine Crockett, would you remind me of her? She mentioned that it's the way that it was done. When I saw her take, I said, okay, I get that. I agree with Stephen A. But also I see when Jasmine mentioned the way Donald Trump went in and did it, I can agree to that also. What is your thoughts on the Venezuelan oil situation and Donald Trump?
Well, I'll just say this. Number one, I don't approve of how he did this. I do say that the president, the former president of Venezuela, what he was doing to his country was wrong, the way he was treating people. But I feel like what has happened is that the administration was so quick to say this was all drugs, that's all they kept mentioning. And we know this was an oil grab. We know this was an oil grab. The fact that the Trump administration was killing people randomly offshores. I feel like it was building up to where they did what they did the other day. I'm in a full agreement. I do not agree the way that they did it, because he executed some power that he should have went through the branches of government to get
Right.
approval. But he used the tactics of the drugs, because now you're not hearing nothing about these drugs. All you hear
Right.
about now is the
Right.
oil. You don't hear nothing about the drugs no more. Only the oil. Not a fan of the administration. I think all of them need to
That's
be
a
in
good point.
jail. They all need to be in prison. I feel it's a war crime, the things that they are doing, not just in Venezuela, but across the world. But you look at these different areas, people, and I'll say this, and I believe in this, people know what's going on, but people want to turn a blind eye. And I've not really researched much on him. I've been like trying to protect my peace, because there's so much that's
Yeah.
going on in the world, so much heaviness,
Right.
and just protecting my peace and my mental, because sometimes this stuff, I mean, it weighs on you, because you're thinking that
Yeah.
this could be you next. I mean, look what's happening in Minneapolis right now. I mean, it
Right.
just
I
weighs
can
on you.
imagine. So let's switch gears a little bit, get off of politics, right? Like you say, you're a female first, you're a Black woman. So men like consistency too, right? What are you consistent in a relationship?
What am I consistent in? Loyalty, loving, my presence, supporting. I feel sometimes my support, sometimes I'll put my relationship and the growth of that first into that person before me. So yeah, I'm consistent in those areas.
Good
Hmm.
answers. Look, before we wrap it up, I just want to ask you, the podcast respectfully. I love to pick everybody's brain and see how they feel about respect. You being in politics, I'm sure, it means a lot. How has respect served you best and others around you?
Oh my gosh, one thing, I'm big on respect. There's people that I don't care for, and I still respect them. If we're in the same room, I still show respect. But I tell people respect is given to those who give it. So there's people who have been, who've been completely disrespectful to me, and said some hurtful things. But I feel like when I'm in the room, I always have to, number one, I always have to be the bigger person, because I'm always going to stand out in the room. And the first thing
Yeah.
they'll hear is if I say something negative, that they'll forget anything positive I said, and they'll focus on the negative. So I'll
Yeah.
never give anybody that leverage to be able to say, "Oh, well, she said this." No, I didn't. I was nice. I
Yeah.
said, "Hello, how you doing?" I even sat next to you, baby, and shared my
Right,
pen.
right.
Yep. Never
But
give them
look,
nothing to talk about.
Exactly. And you know, with your trajectory, people gonna have a lot to talk about. So I just encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. Shake the haters off. Stay focused. You're doing a lot for the community in
Thank you.
Omaha. Your hard work doesn't go unnoticed. And anything I can do, me and my team to support you, we'll do that. So
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
appreciate you, Precious. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.